Hi guys, I've got some interesting stuff to share with you regarding the rapture and end times. Maybe some of this you don't know about or haven't heard about yet. I kind of found it really exciting and encouraging, so I thought I'd share it with you. It's basically, I did a bit of studying and I thought about how to best sum it all up, because I don't want to waste your time, and I know a lot of people who speak on the subject can just go on and on and on. So I've kind of broken it into three areas. What I'll do is I'll quickly take you through the three areas, explain the whole concept to you, so those of you who don't want to stay till the end can just leave, and those that want to dig in and see where I get everything from can stay on and see. So hopefully we'll tick two boxes there. So the three sections are a kingly custom that Jesus has partly fulfilled, and of course when he returns again he will complete that custom and be anointed as king, and that's what we're all waiting for. Then the next section is timing is everything, and I go into this really fascinating number of 490, what it means. Okay, I then just talk about a grand finale and an exciting interpretation of a scripture that you're probably very familiar with. So in short summary, okay, for those of you that don't want to stay to the end of the video, there's a kingly custom that is set up in Luke 19:28, and it's something that even Solomon's gone through, where before a person gets crowned as king, he sits on a donkey, he gets paraded into the town, and everyone, basically praise him and shout his praises, whatever. And then he gets crowned, and then he's king. But something that's very fascinating there is the sacrifice that needs to take place 4 days later. And basically I talk about how Jesus fulfills that. So he's basically ticked that box. Okay. Then timing is everything. There's this fascinating number of 490. And where do we get that from? And why is it significant? So basically, to sum it up very shortly, is that 490 is significant because God deals with Israel in quarters of 490. So it's a lot like a sporting event that's broken up into 4 quarters. So there's 4 quarters that are assigned to this game of life for Israel. And how we're in the last quarter and what 490 means. So very quickly, to sum up, where we get this magical number from of 490, it's just basically 70 times 7, okay? That gives us our 490. And then I take you into Daniel, and I talk about that number, and I show you how we're actually missing 7 years. And it's as if God just pushed stop on the 490 cycle. In other words, the last quarter, you just push stop. We're now having the Gentile period, and then at the end of the Gentile period, he's going to hit play again, and then Israel are going to get that missing 7 years that have been left out. They're going to get to play to the end of the game, which is really exciting. And then the last is the final, the finale, in Romans 11:25. So if we go to Romans 11:25, I'm sure you all know the scripture. And let me just read the scripture out to you. It's Paul talking to the church and saying he doesn't want us to be ignorant. And he says that blindness has occurred to Israel until fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And then what I do is I drill into this, the Greek or Hebrew meanings of this final word, come in. Okay. And what it actually means is when the Gentiles had entered in, here it is here. See, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that word. but it's basically when the Gentiles enter in. Will enter into what? And it is the New Jerusalem. Enter into the New Jerusalem. Well, that's what I believe, and many others also believe that. So that, in summary, is what I want to share with you. And what I'll do is I'll just go from the top now, and I'll show you some more detail on that. So those of you who want to leave, you can leave now. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Those of you that want to stay on, I'm going to just get into a bit more detail. Okay, so this kingly custom. Let's have a look at this kingly custom. And we see it here. God sets it up. Luke 19:28. So let's go and have a read, a summary of it. If I can just get my picture out the way. Oh, I can't get my picture out the way. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to paraphrase anyway. So, Exodus 12, okay, it talks about this custom that a king goes through. And it talks about the 10th day, which is the 10th of Nisan, I think it is, that Jesus rode in on the donkey on Palm Sunday. You know, this is it. This is where God establishes it, the 10th day of each month. So what happens is they take a lamb, okay, and the lamb must be without defect. Rings any bells? Jesus without defect. In fact, Jesus declared that he was innocent by Pilate, who washed his hands. We all know the story. He said, "This man is innocent. I find no fault in him. Choose, who you want me to release and who you want me to crucify." And they chose Jesus to be crucified. But anyway, so he was declared without defect. And then on the 14th day of the month, okay, that's when the slaughter must occur. Go read it. It's something that God's put in place, and it's got to do with the 10th day and the 14th day, which is, in other words, 14 days later. So here on what we call Palm Sunday, Jesus rides in, begins his kingly custom by riding in, because you're not king straight away, you're only king after everything, after the whole ceremony. So he starts off by fulfilling the custom of the king riding in on a donkey. We call it Palm Sunday. The leaves go down, palm leaves go down. The king rides in, Jesus rode in. But whilst he was riding in, Jesus is thinking, okay, 4 days later, these guys are seeing me as king, but I have to be the lamb, the sacrificial lamb, and die. So Jesus was brought here to be crucified, basically, to die. So that's a tick box. Jesus has fulfilled the one aspect of this custom, and that is he has already rode in on a donkey. So that's the good news there. So if we then go to timing is everything. So I explained to you the 490, how we arrive at that, 70 times 7. And so what I'm going to now do is let's go and have a look at this Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. Let's go bring it up quickly. Daniel 9, verse 24. Let's see if I can just bring it up here. Okay, so in Daniel, I'll scroll up to the top so you can see, Daniel 9. Okay, scroll back down again. So it says here that 77s are declared for your people and your holy city to be finished, or to finish, okay? To finish cut. It says here in Daniel 9:24 that 77s is declared for your people and your holy city to finish transgression and put an end to sin, okay? And then down in 25 it says, know and understand this, that from the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. So the split up is quite interesting. If we go back to the calculation, which I've put in here, so it'll be 77s, in other words, 7 weeks. and there will be 62 sevens, which is 62 weeks. So if we take 7 plus 62, we get 69 weeks. Well, what is 69 weeks? It's 483 days. That means we're missing 7 days. So the 7 missing days is the week, the tribulation week, that is still due and owed to the Jews. So Jesus basically pushed pause on the Jewish timeline and said, okay, let's deal with the Gentiles now. We're going through the Gentile period, the grace period. And then after the rapture, once everyone goes into the New Jerusalem, or the Gentiles go into New Jerusalem, then I'll come back to my people, the Jews, and deal with them in the last 7-year tribulation period. So that is the amazing good news. It talks about that the destruction of the temple, and the sanctuary means temple, basically in Jewish custom. So all this timing, the 490 years, it's all exciting stuff. So this was the other scripture. This is the last point that I wanted to make about the blindness that takes part to the Jews until the fullness of the Gentiles have come. In other words, until the Gentiles have gone into the New Jerusalem. And here, as I said, I looked up what this means, and it actually means to go in, to enter. Very, really interesting. Now, I found this site. It's from the Oxford Bible Church, and they also talk about this 490-year cycle, but they don't talk about the missing 7 years. And they've got some diagrams here, which is quite interesting to go through. But again, they don't mention the 7 years, but they do go into some detail. If you want to go have a look through some of their stuff, that's you might find that interesting. The website is oxfordbiblechurch.co.uk. But in order for me to get an understanding of, Nehemiah, because, I had to understand basically in order to, when I went through this article, what is the difference here? Because if you have a look here, they measure from the decree to the cross 490 years. Well, what decree? Because the decree here is actually split, or there's two decrees. There's one concerning Ezra and there's one concerning Nehemiah. So Nehemiah's got to do with the physical restoration, the bricks and mortar, basically. Whereas Ezra has got to do with more of the temple, priestly customs and, traditions. So it's got to do with the priests and the Levites and stuff, So when I read in Daniel, it was talking about the actual physical construction. So I think that's where it differs from the Oxford Bible Church. So a lot of this information, or all of this information, and I also studied it, comes from this guy who's one of my favorite pastors that I follow. I'll put a link to this video down in the description, and you can see what he's got to say about this whole topic. But it's all really interesting. Hope you enjoyed this, guys. We're getting closer than ever now, so keep looking up. Cheers.